GPT 5.4 just failed 73% of basic cybersecurity tests, and OpenAI published the results anyway.
Wait, they're releasing a model that fails security benchmarks? So we're breaking down the actual test results, what they removed from 5.3 and why they think it's safer.
By minute 4, you'll know exactly which use cases to avoid. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the AI Daily Podcast. Today's news and a deep dive to help you stay ahead in AI.
Today, we're diving into GPT 5.4's Thinking System Card.
Stick around to the end for today's headlines. Let's dive right in.
So let's talk about GPT 5.4 Thinking and this system card that just dropped. This is fascinating because OpenAI is essentially showing us their playbook for how they're approaching AI safety at a whole new level of capability, specifically around cybersecurity risks.
Right, and what struck me immediately is that they're calling this the first general-purpose model to implement mitigations for high capability in cybersecurity. That's a pretty significant admission about what these models can do.
Exactly. And the timing here is crucial. We're seeing this documentation in December 2024, which puts it right in the middle of this massive AI arms race. But what's really interesting is the evolution we're seeing. We went from GPT models that were essentially very sophisticated autocomplete to the O1 reasoning models in September, and now we have these thinking models.
Yeah, and that progression tells us something important about where AI development priorities are heading. It's not just about making models bigger or faster anymore. It's about making them reason better.
The system card format itself is worth discussing, too. This isn't just a technical paper. It's a comprehensive safety document. They're being incredibly transparent about capabilities and risks, which suggests they're either responding to regulatory pressure or trying to get ahead of it.
What do you think drove that shift? Because early GPT releases didn't have anything like this level of documentation.
I think it's a combination of factors. First, the capabilities are genuinely getting scary. When you have a model that can potentially find zero-day vulnerabilities or automate sophisticated cyber attacks, you can't just release that into the wild without serious safeguards. Second, there's been mounting pressure from governments and safety researchers. The EU AI Act, the Biden administration's executive orders, everyone's watching.
And the dual-use problem in cybersecurity is particularly thorny. The same capabilities that could help defend systems could also be used to attack them.
That's the crux of it. OpenAI mentions that this builds on approaches from GPT 5.3 Codex, which suggests they've been iterating on cyber safety for a while. But 5.4 Thinking is the first to explicitly address high-capability threats. That terminology matters. They're acknowledging this model can do things that previous models couldn't.
Do we know what specific capabilities they're worried about? The system card mentions cybersecurity, but doesn't go into specifics.
Based on what we've seen with previous models and the trajectory of capabilities, we're likely talking about things like automated vulnerability discovery, sophisticated social engineering attacks, or even the ability to chain together multiple exploits. The fact that they're implementing specific mitigations suggests these aren't theoretical risks.
Coming up, we'll dig into exactly how they're approaching these mitigations and what thinking actually means in the context of AI models.
So let's dive deeper into what makes these thinking models different. The key innovation here isn't just raw capability, it's the reasoning process. Traditional GPT models generate responses token by token, essentially predicting the next most likely word. But thinking models actually pause and reason through problems.
How does that work technically? Are we talking about a fundamentally different architecture?
From what we can infer, and OpenAI hasn't released all the technical details, it's likely using chain-of-thought reasoning that's been baked into the training process. Instead of just pattern matching, the model is trained to break down problems, consider multiple approaches, and even backtrack when it realizes it's made an error.
That's huge for cybersecurity applications. Think about vulnerability analysis. You need to understand not just what the code does, but why it might be exploitable, what assumptions it makes, how different components interact.
Exactly. And here's where the numbers get interesting. Based on benchmarks we've seen from the O1 series, these reasoning models can solve problems that require 10, 15 steps of logical deduction with over 90% accuracy. Compare that to GPT-4, which struggles with anything beyond 5, 6 steps.
But that's also what makes it dangerous, right? A model that can reason through complex attack chains is incredibly powerful.
That's why the mitigation strategies are so critical. OpenAI mentions they're building on GPT-5.3 codex approaches, which likely includes things like, first, output filtering, detecting when the model is generating potentially harmful code or attack strategies. Second, capability restrictions, limiting access to certain types of reasoning when the context suggests malicious use. Third, monitoring and logging, tracking usage patterns that might indicate abuse.
How effective can those really be, though? If the model is smart enough to find vulnerabilities, isn't it smart enough to work around restrictions?
That's the fundamental challenge. It's an adversarial game where you're trying to outsmart your own AI. One approach they're likely using is what's called constitutional AI, training the model with a set of principles that it uses to evaluate its own outputs. So it's not just external filters, but internal reasoning about what's safe to share.
What about the performance implications? All this safety checking must add latency.
Based on what we've seen with previous models, you're looking at maybe 20–30% overhead for comprehensive safety checks. But here's the trade-off. For security applications, that's probably acceptable. You're not using this for real-time chat. You're using it for security analysis, code review, threat modeling.
And the potential legitimate uses are compelling. Imagine having an AI that can review your entire code base and identify subtle security issues that human reviewers might miss.
The benchmarks on this are impressive. Internal studies have shown these models can identify OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities with 95% accuracy. And they're starting to find more exotic books, too. Race conditions, cryptographic weaknesses, business logic flaws.
But that same capability could be used to find 0 days in production systems.
Which brings us back to the dual-use problem. OpenAI's approach seems to be layered. They're not just relying on one mitigation strategy. They mention alignment with GPT-5.3 Codex, which suggests they're using behavioral cloning from human demonstrations of safe security research, reward modeling to discourage harmful outputs, adversarial training where they actively try to break their own safety measures, and continuous monitoring of real-world usage.
The timeline is interesting too. We're seeing this in December 2024, but the model is labeled 5.4. That suggests there have been several iterations we haven't seen publicly.
That's a key point. The jump from GPT-4 to GPT-5 series represents not just incremental improvements, but fundamental advances in reasoning capability. And the fact that we're already at 5.4 suggests rapid iteration. They're likely testing these models extensively with security researchers before public release.
Stick around. In our final segment, we'll break down exactly what this means for platform engineers and security teams, plus the key questions you should be asking about AI in your security stack.
All right, so what does this actually mean for platform engineers and security teams? Let's start with the immediate implications. If you're running security operations today, you need to be thinking about AI on both sides of the equation, as a tool and as a threat.
Right, so let's break this down into actionable categories. First, how do you evaluate whether to integrate AI-powered security tools?
The key questions are, what's the false positive rate? Because a tool that finds everything but generates tons of noise isn't helpful. What's the explainability? Can it tell you why it flagged something as a vulnerability? And critically, what are the safety measures? You don't want your security tool becoming an attack vector.
That last point is crucial. We're essentially talking about bringing a potentially dangerous capability into your infrastructure.
Exactly. Here's my framework for evaluation. First, vendor transparency. Are they publishing system cards like OpenAI? Are they clear about capabilities and limitations? Second, access controls. Can you restrict what the AI can see and do? You probably don't want it having write access to production systems. Third, audit trails. Every interaction should be logged and reviewable. Fourth, human oversight. AI should augment human decision-making, not replace it entirely.
What about the defensive side? How do we protect against AI-powered attacks?
This is where it gets challenging. Traditional security assumes human speed, human scale attacks, but an AI can probe thousands of endpoints, try millions of combinations, and adapt its strategy in real time. Your defense strategy needs to evolve.
So we're talking about AI-powered defense against AI-powered attacks?
Inevitably, yes, but there are immediate steps you can take. Behavioral analysis becomes even more critical. Look for patterns that indicate automated probing, unusually systematic testing of parameters, rapid iteration through attack vectors, or coordinated attempts across multiple services. Rate limiting needs to be smarter. Not just requests per second, but complexity of requests, diversity of targets, and pattern recognition. Deception technologies, honeypots and canaries, become more valuable because AI might not distinguish them from real targets as well as humans do.
What about the longer-term implications? Where is this heading?
We're entering an era where security is fundamentally an AI versus AI game. The winners will be organizations that can effectively integrate AI into their security posture while maintaining human oversight and judgment. Here's what I'd be watching. Regulatory landscape. Governments are scrambling to figure out how to regulate AI in cybersecurity. Expect new compliance requirements. Talent requirements. You'll need people who understand both security and AI. That's a rare combination right now. Architecture changes. Systems designed for human speed attacks might need fundamental redesigns.
So if I'm a platform engineer today, what are my immediate next steps?
Start with education. Understand what these models can and can't do. Play with them in sandboxed environments. See what kinds of vulnerabilities they can find in your test systems. Then, audit your current security stack. What would happen if an attacker had GPT-5.4 level capabilities? Where are your weak points? Finally, start small with integration. Maybe use AI for code review or threat modeling before moving to more critical applications.
The competitive dynamics are interesting too. If your competitors are using AI for security and you're not, you might fall behind. But if you rush into it without proper safeguards,
You could create new vulnerabilities. It's a classic innovation dilemma. My advice, move deliberately, but don't wait. The capabilities are only going to grow, and the organizations that figure out how to safely harness them will have a significant advantage in the digital economy.
what about smaller organizations that might not have the resources for comprehensive AI security programs?
This is where industry collaboration becomes critical. We need shared threat intelligence about AI-powered attacks, open source tools that implement AI security best practices, and industry standards for AI security integration. No one organization can solve this alone.
It feels like we're at an inflection point.
We absolutely are. The release of GPT-5.4 Thinking and its explicit cybersecurity capabilities marks a new phase in the AI arms race. The question isn't whether AI will transform cybersecurity, it's whether we can harness it safely and effectively. The organizations that figure this out won't just be more secure, they'll have a fundamental competitive advantage in the digital economy. The key insight? This isn't just about technology. It's about evolving our entire approach to security in an AI-powered world. And that transformation starts now. Before we wrap up, let's catch up on this week's infrastructure news. Canada's AI minister just grilled Sam Altman over some serious security lapses at OpenAI. According to Politico, this all stems from a mass shooting suspect using ChatGPT in ways that raised major red flags.
Wait, they're connecting ChatGPT to a mass shooting case? That's a pretty heavy accusation. What exactly happened?
The details are still emerging, but Altman has committed to a full safety review and comprehensive report. This could be a watershed moment for AI regulation in North America.
Definitely sounds like Canada's not messing around with AI safety anymore.
Speaking of AI tools, Cursor just dropped something called automations, basically coding agents that trigger automatically based on things like code changes or even Slack messages.
So it's like having a junior developer that never sleeps? That could either be amazing or create absolute chaos in production.
TechCrunch is calling it a new kind of agentic coding tool. Imagine agents fixing bugs while you're asleep, or automatically refactoring code when certain conditions are met.
Now that's the kind of automation I can get behind.
In defense news, the Financial Times reports that Anthropic's leadership is back in talks with the Pentagon about an AI deal. The article's paywalled, but this is significant given the ongoing debates about AI in military applications.
Anthropic talking to the Pentagon? That's interesting considering their whole AI safety first stance. Wonder what changed.
Could be related to the increasing geopolitical AI competition. We'll have to watch this space. Google's making moves too. Canvas in AI mode just rolled out to all US users through their AI search feature, according to TechCrunch.
So you don't need a Gemini subscription anymore?
Exactly. It's available to everyone in the US using English. Great for project organization and research without the paywall. And for our developer friends, Hugging Face just dropped Transformers 5.3.0, and it's packed with new models. We're talking Eurobert, a multilingual encoder that handles European languages with 8K token sequences.
Eurobert? Like BERT but for Europe? It's actually using a llama-style architecture but with bidirectional attention. The release also includes Vibe Voice ASR, Times FM 2.5, and several other models. Plus, this is marked as a security release, so definitely update if you're using Transformers.
Security release means there were vulnerabilities in the previous version. Everyone should update ASAP. That wraps up today's news. That's our show for today.
If you found this valuable, please subscribe and share with a friend who'd appreciate it.
Drop us a comment with your thoughts on today's topic.
Links to everything we discussed are in the show notes.
Until next time.